Hey everyone and welcome to another video, guys, and today we're going to be talking about what laners need to understand about jungling, because you guys in the YouTube comments and then the Discord community keep asking me things like this, saying, Curtis, what do I need to understand about jungling? Do I need to pick it up as a secondary role? How come I keep getting camped all the time? How come I keep dying to ganks? How do I jungle track? So I thought it'd be really fitting to, answer all of these questions in one neat little video. So I don't know about you guys, but it feels like the relationship between mid laners and junglers in solo queue across time has slowly deteriorated to the point where the way a mid laner views a jungler or a jungler views a mid laner is incredibly toxic. And I think this is largely due to a lack of understanding of each other's roles. And for those of you who have seen Rick and Morty, you may understand this little analogy here, but essentially Rick and Morty is this funny little show, and there's this husband and wife here. And they go to marriage counseling on this other planet. And there's this technology where you put on this helmet and it will show you the way you perceive your partner. And this always got me thinking, holy shit, if you were to put this contraption on a mid laner and show the way they view the jungler, or on a jungler and show the way they view their mid laner, it would be absolutely hilarious. It's not in reality whatsoever. So my goal, guys, with this video is to help you have a better relationship with your jungler and really understand the intricacies of the other roles. So hopefully within this video, we're going to be covering jungle pathing, jungle tracking, talking about the key timers with a lot of examples. This is going to be a very practical and pragmatic video. We're going to be talking about jungle XP theory, chess moves, why spotting the enemy jungler is incredibly important in warding, mid laner's role in a game, and highlighting faker. We're going to be talking about how to determine the likelihood of getting ganked or camped, gold jungler trends, why junglers in gold are very predictable, and then lastly, how to deal with specifically Nunu, Eve, and Hecarim. So let's dive into a few examples, guys. So the way we're going to go about this video, guys, is that I'm just going to keep it very practical, very pragmatic. I'm going to go through 6 of my recent solo queue VODs, all played above Diamond 1, and we're going to break down how you can reliably track the enemy jungler, game in, game out, just with basic jungle tracking knowledge, okay? And usually you can do this for the first, say, 6 or 7 minutes of the game, and that is probably the most important, most vulnerable part of any person's game. That's generally where the most of the action happens. So hopefully, by the end of the 6 VODs, you can have a pretty good understanding of jungle tracking, and if you get confused off the first VOD, or the second VOD, or the third VOD, keep watching. I'm going to be repeating a lot of the same concepts, and there's going to be things in here for the average gold and platinum player, and there's going to be things in here for the average diamond and master tier player. I'm going to try and really balance it with a bunch of simple and complex things. So in this first VOD here, I'm playing Fizz, and that's not really important at all, but I have a Graves jungle, and I'm on blue side, and I'm versing a Nidalee jungle. And the first thing that you should be concerned about in every single game is trying to find out where the enemy jungle started. Pretty self-explanatory. Whichever lane shows up late and looks like they've leashed is likely the side that the enemy jungle has started. In this VOD here, if we skip forward a little bit, we can see that the enemy jungle actually showed up late to lane, which suggests that they literally got a leash on blue side. And a neat little interesting tip, guys. If you look at any jungle VOD below gold, or gold and below, all the way from maybe gold 1 to gold 4 and even below that, most junglers will start on bot side because they have this fascination about getting a leash from their bot lane. They think, oh, I have to start bot. Getting a leash from my bot lane is just so much better. So I would say 95% of the time they're going to be starting bot side. That's just a niche little gold thing that we will touch on a little bit later on in the video. But anyway, now I know that Nidalee has started blue. Now, I don't give a shit about which camps Nidalee's done. I don't care if she's done Gromp, Wolves, Raptors, whatever. I don't care. All I am concerned about in my mind is that Nidalee started bot and is going to be ending up on top side here. That's all I need to know, because this is going to influence my leaning. Now, the other thing I need to think about is that generally 1 or 2 things is going to happen in most games, Diamond 1 and below. Nidalee's going to end up on top side and maybe do some form of a full clear, which is going to be maybe heading into river later, maybe around 315 or 320, whatever, depending on how many camps she's done and which she's done more of an efficient full clear. Or she could potentially be in the river by level 3 with both buffs by 2 minutes 40. She can potentially be active and get shit done by 2 minutes 40. That's why I recommend warding the ledge if possible, if you have priority, by around 2 minutes 35, 2 minutes 40. That's where you're going to be able to reliably spot out the enemy jungle. But that doesn't really matter because I'm getting pushed in anyway here. But all I know is that Nidalee is going to be on top side. Now, my jungler has done a red-blue path. And generally, Graves is not really a level 2 jungler. Generally, Graves is going to be getting at least 3 camps to get that level 3. But, and we're going to talk about this a bit later on as well, In this situation, Graves must have panned his camera top and realized that this is a very heavy trading, chaotic, snowball-oriented matchup where Darius is playing very aggressive into a Tryndamere. So he's probably thought to himself, you know what? This is a guaranteed kill. Look at the way this Darius is playing. So this Graves has actually ended up going for a weird little level 2 gank onto the Darius, and I believe ends up getting a kill onto the Darius, which is, you know, nice little gank from the Graves. Now again, all I know at this point is that Nidalee is somewhere in that topside jungle. I don't know where exactly, but she's in that topside jungle. So Graves goes, if we fast forward a little bit here, I don't really have the ability to get a ward. Graves goes back into his jungle, is now on his Gromp, and is about to head to his wolves. So Nidalee has a choice to make at this point in time. Nidalee has to assess, okay, what's the likelihood of me being able to secure this scuttle right now? Who's going to have priority and who's going to be in lane first, and how is my strength relative to the enemy Graves? So either one or two things is going to happen. Nidalee's either going to give this scuttle completely and just trade scuttles and go into bot scuttle, or they're going to meet together on this top scuttle and maybe a skirmish is going to break out. Pretty self-explanatory, nothing too fancy is going on so far. So again, I still don't really know where Nidalee is right now. My rough estimate though is that Nidalee is likely on top side somewhere. So fast forwarding a little bit here, I believe Tryndamere hits the Scryer's Bloom, spots the Nidalee in the river, they camp the bush, and it looks like Nidalee got caught in the river, got slowed down, and they capitalize and chase down the Nidalee and get a nice little kill onto the Nidalee. Now, if I'm very, very good at jungle tracking, I believe I pressed tab here. If I'm very, very good at jungle tracking, which I would not expect for the average gold, platinum, or even low diamond player, maybe if you're like diamond 1 and above, then you can start to get used to counting the amount of CS to think about what their path was. And given that this Nidalee has actually done 20 or got 24 CS, that suggests that she's done a full clear because each camp is worth 4. She's done 6 camps, so she's done a full clear here because she hasn't got any scuttle. So this means, in my mind, that both scuttles are up so far because Graves hasn't got top scuttle, Nidalee hasn't got bot scuttle, and now because Nidalee's actually dead, Graves is going to secure this top scuttle, and I know 100% of the time Nidalee is going to be going back onto her bot side to go back to her rubber banded camps and potentially get this bot scuttle. Okay, this is very, very important. You will know, and this is pretty self-explanatory, and you're going to be able to see this most games. We're going to go over this concept a lot. Once the jungler has gone onto top side, done their camps, maybe got a top scuttle, that maybe looked for a gank, they are likely basing and coming back onto their bot side, usually around 5-ish minutes to get their rubber banded second rotation of camps. And one thing mid laners don't really understand, because for some reason, mid laners always think that, oh my god, if I'm getting ganked and my jungler's just farming, it's game over. Like, they're doing nothing. But what mid laners and laners don't understand is that the second rotation of camps gives more XP than the first rotation. And the third rotation gives more XP than the second rotation. So right now, if Nidalee's going back onto bot side, she's going to get a second rotation of camps. And because she's actually cleared all of them, they're all level 2 camps. And especially camps like Krugs, that are very valuable, especially the level 2 Krugs. You can get very far ahead of your counterpart if you're getting your level 2 Krugs when the enemy hasn't even got their level 1 Krugs. So something you really need to consider and really to understand the mindset of a jungler is that they really want to clear their camps in an efficient manner and then reset, go back onto their what they call rubber banded camps, the camps that have respawned, to get their second rotation of camps. You ideally don't want to leave camps up because it's quite inefficient. Anyway, I know now in my mind that Nidalee is 100% of the time going to be back on bot side here. There's nothing for her to get on top side. She's done a full clear. She can't contest this top scuttle. She's 100% going to be on this side of the map. So in terms of leaning and warding, if I'm really high level and I have a lot of priority, I could even maybe ward over here, ward in bot river, maybe on that dot bush or something like that. And in this situation, I know I can just lean onto top side safely and I can never get ganked by this Nidalee. Now, if we fast forward a little bit here, this is where things get a little bit complicated, and we're going to talk about this a few times within this video. Graves, instead of going for a double scuttle here, actually ends up going for a gank onto this Darius. Now, there's a concept that, again, laners and even some junglers don't really understand, is how big it is for a jungler to show on the map. So look at this. Now Graves shows on top lane right now. Holy shit, this is actually massive. What does this mean for the enemy Nidalee? Well, Nidalee's coming out of base right now, pans the camera and looks down the minimap and says, wait, Graves is not resetting. Graves is not going for a double scuttle. Graves is actually going for a gank. Nidalee's now thinking to herself, holy shit, that just means that I can actually invade Graves' camps on bot side, take these, whether they're level 1 or level 2 camps, I guess she doesn't really know unless she's really counted the CS here. This means she also gets that scuttle, so this actually means that Nidalee has a lot of tempo over this Graves, because as we know before, guys, Graves didn't clear this Krugs or Raptors. Nidalee actually has a bit of a camp advantage over this Graves. And this is actually, in my opinion, a really, really bad play from Graves, because I don't think that, well, the gank actually failed, but even if you were to get that kill, you would lose more than you would gain, in my opinion. So now I know still in my mind that Nidalee is 100% on the bot side of the map somewhere. And if we fast forward here a little bit, Graves tries to cross map, but by now, I'm pretty sure it's too late. Nidalee should 100% have gotten that scuttle, and Graves is wasting a lot of time here. This is pretty inefficient from Graves. In my opinion, Graves should have just reset, unless Graves is maybe trying to defend those camps. But Graves gets pushed out. I see Nidalee on the bot side here. Pretty self-explanatory. I clear this pink, and now I know, okay, Nidalee's going to be here very temporarily, clear this Gromp, clear this Wolf, and then she's going to be pathing back up. Okay, so for her round 2 clear. This happens every single game, guys. Don't worry, if you're a little bit confused now, we'll go through plenty of VODs, but she's going to be clearing, again, her second rotation of buffs, the same direction, second rotation of camps, the same direction. You always go the same direction. Now, in my mind, I know maybe she's going to be here for maybe 10 seconds or something like that, depending on how many camps she got on the way through, because I actually don't think she got these Raptors. She's going to be pathing up through here now. So I know Nidalee's going to be on top side of the map relatively soon. Maybe she's even on her Raptors now, or very close. So I go for a gang top side, but I know I'm Fizz. I can't really die to Nidalee. She has no threat on to me. But I know Nidalee's going to be somewhat in the area here. And the other piece of information I know here is that Nidalee is going to be back onto this blue by 650. The second rotation of buffs spawn at 650. Okay, because it spawns at like 130, it takes around 20 seconds to get the camp. So 650, because it takes 5 minutes to respawn. 650 is the magic number that you need to always think about, and that's going to be the core number that I'm going to be talking a lot about in this video. So Nidalee, as we can see here, is on these Krugs. She's done another bot to top clear, clearing all the way up. She's likely going to either be resetting, going straight back onto bot side in preparation for this blue buff, or she's going to be, maybe she skipped a camp, maybe get 1 or 2 camps and actually path straight down without resetting, depending on if there's gank opportunities and things like that. So right now, I mean, if I was very on top of my champion, I didn't really have to think about my trading patterns, or maybe it was a very slow game, it wouldn't take a genius to really have a pretty reliable idea of where Nidalee is going to be right now. And then she actually recalls and goes back onto the bot side right now. Pretty self-explanatory. And one important thing, again, I'm going to reiterate a lot, is that most junglers, especially if they haven't got a kill from an early gank, are going to be level 5 before they get their second buff. Most junglers will be around level 5 by that time, by 650. And they ding level 6 off this second blue buff or red buff, depending where they started. Okay, so this is why second rotation invades are crucial, or a great strategy if you're playing any burst-oriented assassin. If you're playing Fizz, if you're playing LeBlanc, if you're playing Zed, if you're playing Echo, if you're playing Kiana, any of these champions, mid laners actually get level 6 before the jungler most of the time. Again, depending if the jungler actually got off some efficient ganks in the early game. But let's just say the early game's been relatively slow. I'm playing Zed. I know I'm going to get level 6 with a Dirk. Most junglers are actually relatively squishy as well. I know if I walk over here at around 640, 645, the jungler is going to be there starting that camp as soon as it dings level 650, because they want their 6 as fast as possible. And usually you can actually look for a kill. You can, if you're a duo with your jungler, you can look for a sneaky little invade, kill, snowball, dive bot, whatever. That's where you can make some really great set plays, all right? So let's dive into another example, guys. So this one's a really basic example. This is just a game from one of my recent streams. We're versing a Rengar jungle on red side here. And as we can see, Rengar actually started this red. And we would have been able to figure this out anyway from the bot lane leashing. But we have the luxury of knowing straight away where the Rengar started. So, again, Rengar is either going to do maybe red, Krugs, Raptors, then head on to top side. Maybe like a 3-camp, full clear oriented setup. Or maybe Rengar, I mean, I don't know Rengar path specifically, and that's not overly important to me. All I need to know as a mid laner, for me anyway, is I just want to know where the enemy jungle is going to be ending up. As you get a little bit more advanced and like master tier above, then you can get a bit more specific about what the actual paths are going to be, because then you can kind of invade, or if they're going to loop back and do those sort of things. But for the average player, all you need to know, Rengar's going to be ending up on top side. So we fast forward a little bit here. Again, I haven't even got a ward out. Doesn't really matter. And if we're going to be talking about warding efficiency, and I'll show another VOD later on, if I want to spot out the jungler for my team, I will actually ward on this blue, knowing that Rengar's going to be doing a top path here. And if I spot out Rengar on this blue, my bot lane knows they're in an isolated 2v2. My top laner knows how far away Rengar is. And my jungler can actually press tab, count the amount of CS that Rengar's done, and know if they've actually done the Raptors, or if they've done the Krugs, or which camps they have or haven't skipped. Now, one thing I am going to reiterate a lot without this video is the importance of warding, not just for you, because if you're good at jungle tracking, one thing you'll know is that you won't actually need to ward for you. The only situations you'll need to ward for you if you've completely forgot about looking where the enemy jungle started, or maybe you're playing very high elo and you're worried about creative jungle pathing, or maybe they actually soloed a buff so you actually don't know where they started. That's where great warding really comes into play for you in order to dictate where you lean. But with this basic jungle pathing, you actually don't really need to ward. I mean, for you anyway, you really know where they're going to be, where they're going to end up, and which side to lean onto. This is, or the main reason I ward is actually for my teammates. If I can spot the enemy jungle, I'm assuming that everyone on my team is just like a baby that knows nothing about jungle tracking. Like, they have no idea. And you'd be surprised. We're gonna see some shit in these examples. People have they're so oblivious to the basic jungle pathing here. Now, in competitive play, and this is something I don't want to talk about too much here, a lot of the time, if they know they have a lot of gank setup and they're a top laner, they can get priority in the early game, they will hard shove, bounce the wave, so by level 3, or around this time by the jungler is going to be coming on the river, it's bouncing out and they can create gank threat. That's like, there's a lot of reliable things you can do in competitive play, or if you're a top laner duo with your jungler. But anyway, here, as we see, I think if you're a hard shove level 1 and 2, maybe bounce the wave off by level 3. We see Rengar on top side with the Ash Arrow Bleed, but pretty self-explanatory. Fast forwarding here, by 2 minutes 40, Rengar could theoretically be in the river if he wanted to, but highly unlikely given how inefficient or how low threat Rengar's early ganks are. Fast forwarding a little bit more, what can we assume? Rengar's probably on top scuttle somewhere. Top scuttle spawns at 315, doing some form of a full clear. If I lean onto bot side here, I'm completely fine. And look at Aurelia. No ward, and just randomly dies to a level 4 or level 3 or level 4 Rengar. Like, what the hell? Like, that's so basic. It's so basic. And usually, I would say most people die to ganks purely because, like, they literally don't even think about where the jungle started, or they're so focused, they're so caught up about their trading in the 1v1 matchup that they completely forget about that the jungler even exists. So that Rengar just got a kill there that he should never get in a million years. Like, think about how easy that is for Rengar. Basically a full clear onto top side into a basic level 4 gank. It does not get any more basic than that. With no wards, it really didn't do a single ward. So anyway, what do we know about basic jungle pathing? Well, Rengar likely has done like a full clear top side. If I wanted to really know that, I could press tab and count the amount of CS there. So we know that Rengar's going to want to be going back onto his rubber banded camps, and especially since he's a champion that wants to get 6 as fast as possible to get that Rengar ultimate. He's likely going to be beelining straight back onto his Krugs here to get his level 2 Krugs. So I'm assuming he did red Krugs Raptors here. So I know that by roughly around 5-ish minutes, Rengar's going to be back onto the other side and looking to potentially gank here. So if we fast forward a little bit here, what do we know? 4 minutes 30, 4 minutes 40. Rengar's likely maybe finishing up those Krugs, potentially looking on that side of the map. Look, no wards on bot side. No wards here. Basic jungle tracking, Rengar hasn't done anything special. No creative jungle path. This is, again, like Diamond 1 or like Diamond 2. And Ashe is fully overextended. They die. And Rengar is there to follow up. And they just die to a random gank. Although they were going to die to a random gank anyway. Even if they didn't get the duo kill, Rengar was going to be there and get that kill. Okay, so Rengar's obviously done Krugs and gone straight back onto bot side. Most junglers will go straight here onto their Krugs. Sometimes they'll dick around, maybe put a ward here, look for a gank or whatever. But then most of the time, especially if they start a bot side, they're going to go camp, ward, camp again. Then they will either look for ganks while they're in this little brief period before their red spawns, or, because knowing that the second buff spawns at 650, remember? Or they'll full clear, reset again, and then go back and to get that red, ding level 6, and start to do shit with their gold, okay? So here, we know Rengar's probably around these raptors, maybe finishing up raptors here, going onto those wolves. Okay, there's actually, sorry, Rengar crossing the river there on that scuttle. And now I'm thinking, okay, Rengar's probably around those Krugs, sorry, not Krugs, so raptors, finishing up those raptors, and then going back onto the top side there. Kindred knew that, because Rengar showed bots, Kindred knew that there's a bit of a window here to potentially steal some of those topside camps, tying into that really core concept of the importance of showing on the map, or the danger showing on the map. Now I go for a level 6 kill here, and whoop-de-doo, what do we see? Rengar's in the area. Pretty self-explanatory. We knew Rengar was going to be somewhere in the area. If I flash this bowler here in level 6, I kind of escape, but I don't flash the bowler and end up dying here. So again, I think this is very basic. This is a very basic example of some just straightforward jungle tracking. And I guarantee you guys, if you go into one of your recent VODs, go to one of your recent OBS VODs, look at how basic the pathing is. Look at the timings. Look at when they're going to be, when they gank. Roughly, they'll be ganking around 3 minutes, or from 2 minutes 40 onwards. They'll roughly be doing something on the side that they end up on, or opposite side of when they started. And I'll guarantee you that majority of the time, they're going to be back onto that side that they started, going back onto their rubber banded camps around 5 minutes. Now this is where one other, I forgot to mention here. If I am, say I have a lot of priority in my lane, okay? And I come back here. It's very valuable for me to go over here and deep ward these raptors. Off my second ward of the game, ideally, if possible, you should be deep warding these raptors. This gives your team a lot of information. This tells your team, okay, two things potentially. If you ward around 5 minutes, because the vision trigger lasts a minute 30, sometimes you'll see the enemy like do their Krugs and walk all the way up here, and you'll see them cross map. So then 100% your top laner will know that the enemy jungler is on the top side of the map, and your bot lane will actually know they're on an isolated 2v2, and I know that the jungler won't really be in the area. And then if you put the ward at around 5 minutes, sometimes you'll actually see the jungler come back and cross map back onto this side and go to the red, in which you'll know that they have not reset. Sometimes if you put the ward there around like 5 minutes 05, you'll actually know that the jungler has resets, and then they're coming straight back on the map for the red. So that's another little thing you can see as well. So this is the importance of warding raptors. Even making this video, and I was actually talking to Nathan about this, how important it is to, if possible, to get a deep ward on those raptors. You get a lot of information about where the enemy jungler is going to be, and it really helps you pinpoint what side of the map they're going to be, at least for the next 1 or 2 minutes. Very, very good ward if possible. So let's dive on to the next VOD, guys. Again, this is a pretty basic example. I'm versing a Graves, and the Graves is on red side here. I have a Kha'Zix on blue side. Taking a look at where the enemy Graves started, we will see in a second if they leashed or not bot lane. So they didn't. So the enemy bot lane actually cheesed on the tri-bush here, which says to me that it's very likely that the Graves has started top and is doing a top to bot clear. Okay, so now all I'm thinking is that, cool, Graves is going to be doing a top to bot clear. Graves can be active in the map and the bot side jungle by 2 minutes 40. Okay, as long as I ward bot side, I can maybe lean top side, or I can ward bot side as well, depending on what I want to do. I know where Graves is going to be. So if we fast forward here a little bit, if you're next level, you can even danger ping onto this side and danger ping your bot lane, knowing that the jungler is going to be onto this side. And because I know the jungler has done a top to bot path here, I end up warding here. I like warding my dot bush here. Sometimes purely for when the jungler gets scuttle. Sometimes I'll spot them on here as they're getting the scuttle, and just to make sure that they don't invade these camps over here, because occasionally they might even invade these raptors if they know they're versing a champion that skipped the raptors or things like that. But anyway, my main intention with that ward is not because I don't know where Graves is. It's more to pinpoint his exact location and to tell my team where he is. So if we know anything about basic jungle tracking, Graves is likely going to be on bot side very soon. If we fast forward a little bit, what do we see? Graves ganking bot at 3 minutes. Oh, who would have thought? just ignore me getting solo killed here by Luxor level 3. And Graves showed bot with 16 CS. Okay, Graves now is heading back up into the river. That Scuttle's about to spawn here. Looks like there's potentially going to be a little bit of a contest on the Scuttle. ITP back with the resource advantage. Kha'Zix comes back trying to contest Graves on the Scuttle here. Kha'Zix unfortunately is just a little bit late. Tries to get a kill onto this Graves. Kha'Zix trying to get a kill onto the Graves, sorry. And Graves escapes. So, what do we know now? We know that Graves done a top to bot clear. Obviously not a full clear because he only had 16 CS before he headed to that Scuttle. So he'd only done, what, 4 camps. Likely skipped the Krugs and maybe skipped the Wolves. Something like that. Now, Kha'Zix, knowing this, has actually gone into the jungle and has taken away Graves' Gromp right now. And Graves has probably realized this. Graves probably realized, okay, Kha'Zix is going to take my Gromp. That's completely fine. I'm going to go back onto my top side, get my level 2 rubber banded camps that I did get, or get my Krugs to level 2, in which maybe he skipped them and they're already level 1. So regardless, he has to go back onto top side and again, continue to do his top to bot clear. Pretty self-explanatory now. So if we fast forward a little bit, we know that Graves is going to be on top side. I don't need to ward my bot side. I know that where Graves is going to be. So if I, in this situation, have priority, if I'm a very good mid laner and I'm great with jungle tracking, and if I had priority, ideally, again, I would be warding outside these Raptors, just to see, is Graves going to go straight from Krugs, Raptors, and Path down again? Or maybe is he going to go Krugs and because he hasn't been spotted on this ward, we know that he's in this area, maybe looking for a gank topside? I don't know. That would be the optimal ward for me if I had priority, because then I'll get to see exactly what his path was. So we know that Graves is going to be topside. We fast forward a little bit here. I believe even Kha'Zix pings that Graves is going to be topside. And what do we know again? Graves shows topside at around 4 minutes 50, 5 minutes, depending on how many camps he's done. He's on that side of the map. Nothing really happens. They disengage that fight. And if I were to have this ward over here on these Raptors, I would be able to pinpoint exactly where Graves is. I would be able to give that information to my bot lane that they're in an isolated 2v2 and Graves is maybe finishing up his 1 or 2 camps and is pathing on the way bot. This would also give information to my Akali that that's an isolated 1v1 right now. So, as you can see here, nothing really special. If you're on the ball and you have a basic understanding of jungle pathing, it's pretty self-explanatory, and you can know where the jungle is actually going to be for most of the game, or at least most of the early game. So if we fast forward a little bit longer here, Graves is obviously finishing that top to bot clear, and what do we know in a second? You'll see, oh, Graves is bot. Wow. Who would have thought Graves is actually bot right now? And Graves shows on the map, okay? So, what do we also know? We know in this situation that Graves ideally has to cross all the way back to the top side to get this this buff that's spawning at 650. So this is actually a pretty bad gank in my opinion, because you're actually delaying your level 6, or you're delaying getting your red buff by a lot. And if this gank failed, Kha'Zix could easily kind of do some form of split map here or something like that. That's where things get a little bit sketchy. But, and that is also where if this guy would have reset, if, say, I panned my camera and I saw Graves was really low, that's where I know, okay, Graves straight away out of base is going to be going straight to this red buff. And maybe if I have priority, if I'm playing an assassin, I could cheese this Graves on this red buff. That's actually something I could do if I have the ability to, you know, burst the enemy jungler. So hopefully this one makes sense. Let's dive onto another VOD, guys. Now this one was a little bit of a weird one, but I did want to show it just for the sake of it. I think it does kind of highlight some of the core fundamentals here with jungle tracking. So if we fast forward here, we knew that Kindred started their red, and my Sejuani did a top to bot clear here. Okay, now I'm getting shoved in by this Twist of Fate. Let's fast forward a little bit, and if we know that the enemy Kindred has done a bot to top clear, we know it's going to be somewhere in this top river by 2 minutes 40 onwards. And what do we know? Kindred, level 3 ganking, 3 minutes onwards, probably done even 4 camps at this point in time. Yeah, he had 16 CS, so he's done 4 camps. Maybe he's even done that Scuttle. And it looks like Camille is about to die to a gank. You'd be surprised at how many top laners die to ganks from very stock standard level 3 ganks. Like, it will blow your brain, it will blow your mind once you actually get into the VOD review. So now, in this situation, Kindred Maybe is looking for some niche invade on the Krugs, which I wouldn't. It's a bit greedy in my opinion because the top laner can actually TP and actually check these Krugs. Maybe he's going back. The Kindra's going back to finish off the Scuttle. If that wasn't the Scuttle that he got, those 6 ACS wasn't the Scuttle. Maybe he's going back to finish the Gromp or the Wolves that he skipped out on. Or maybe he's going to stick around the area, look for another gank onto me, or re-gank top lane, or he's somewhere in that area. They don't usually reset straight away. Generally, they look to do 1 or 2 ganks before they reset, especially if it's a gank oriented jungler like a Kindred. So fast forwarding a little bit here, I see Kindred in the top river here, and I actually see him path up to these Raptors. So I know a bit of a split map is going on at this point in time. If we fast forward a little bit here, I thought, and the Kindred actually shows top again, looking for a potential regain. Good ward from the Camille, knowing that Kindred is still in the area. And as you can tell here, this Kindred has severely delayed her opportunity to get those level 2 Krugs, if she did actually get Krugs in the first place, which I'm not even sure if she did get Krugs. If not, regardless, those are level 1 Krugs for a very long time. So if we fast forward a little bit here, my ward expires, and still, this actually shocked me that Kindred was still in the area. So I have to E away, and now I know 100% that Kindred has not reset. She's been on the map for a very long time, and she needs to get back onto her bot side, in my opinion. But anyway, Kindred does a weird invade onto this Sejuani. They try to pick the Sejuani on my bot side here. And in a second, you'll see the Kindred's overcommitted. Kindred gets caught and overstayed on the map for a very long time. Regardless, Kindred died. So you may ask, okay, how do you know where Kindred's going to be? Okay, what do we know? It is 6 minutes. These Krugs are 100% up. She's definitely going to be wanting to get these Krugs. And what do we also know? We also know that the second buff, this spawns at 650. She's dead for 5 seconds. It takes around 20 to 25 seconds to walk from base out to those, out to your camps. So by the time we do that math, she is going to be getting those Krugs and wants to be on that side of the map. I can nearly guarantee it. So if I was really healthy and I had priority, I could maybe go down here, cheese her on this red. I could maybe counter gank bot here, knowing that she's likely going to be ganking bot side. Maybe I could go for a gank top side, knowing that Kindred is definitely not going to be on that side of the map. Or maybe I could actually ward over here on those Raptors to see if Kindred, when Kindred goes to top side. Because if I put a ward there and I see Kindred here, I'll know if Kindred is going to like go through here or continue up through top side and continue that second rotation of bot to top clearing. And what do we see in a second? Oh, Kindred's bot. Kindred's ganking bot. Who would have thought? Who would have knew where Kindred is going to be? I don't know. And it really is fascinating. Once you get into the review, guys, I'm telling you, this is going to open your mind. It's very, very simple. Jungle tracking, people get overwhelmed with jungle tracking. It's relatively straightforward. The only difficult thing about jungle tracking, it actually isn't the theory. It's the ability to play your lane and jungle track or keep up to date with what the jungler is doing. But I think this is actually why, another reason is why champion mastery is so important and dope is attention theory. Once you are very comfortable with your trading patterns and you really understand the matchup, this is where you can expand your brain to think and introduce into your mental stack jungle tracking. I'm not going to be able to, this is why when I learn a new champion like Echo, I'm learning Echo at the moment, I can't think about jungle tracking very well. I don't even know how to play my trading patterns. I don't know my power spikes. I don't know my power trust. I'm not thinking about what path Kindred could do. I got to worry about I got to protect myself first. So this is another reason as to why champion mastery is so incredibly important. Now this was a super interesting example. This one I'm versing a Nidalee jungle. I have a Nunu, and we're going to talk about Nunu later on. But Nunu can do a lot of creative paths, a lot of differing paths. So here, Nunu decides to do a red to mid gank. And we know that Nidalee actually started blue buff. So we know that Nidalee is going to be doing a stock standard bot to top clear. Again, I don't give a shit about which camp she is or isn't doing. All I know and all I care about is that she's going to be on the top side of the map. Okay? Now, Nunu goes for a level 2 gank mid. It doesn't really work because Yone had that third Q. Now, Nunu continues to go to his top side. And what do I know? I know roughly Nidalee is on top side of the map by now. Probably on those Raptors, on that red buff or something like that. Now, bot lane gets a kill. Nunu, actually, instead of contesting this top scuttle at 315, probably looks at mid, sees that Yone is taking better trades, and is like, you know what? Nidalee's quite strong at level 3. Mordekai's versus Riven. It looks pretty stale at the moment. And Yone has priority mid. I don't feel comfortable contesting this top scuttle. I'm actually just going to leave it, and I'm actually going to go back onto my bot side right now. Okay? So we know likely that Nidalee, again, is still top side. So if we fast forward here, 315. Nidalee is likely in top river by now. Nunu is going for a gank. Now, this is obviously my bad because I'm taking bad trades. I would say the lane is my bad, but not the gank. This is actually a common problem with low elo junglers and even just junglers that aren't really, not super high elo junglers, essentially. Okay, let's break this down. Nunu as a champion is a very gank-oriented champion. So psychologically, and their mindset of some of these Nunu players is that they have to get ganked off in the early game. We're going to talk about this later, but their mindset is like, I'm playing Nunu, my ganks are my biggest strength, my biggest asset, I need to get ganks off. And because he probably feels at this point, you know, there's no gank opportunities bot because they've already died. He's gone mid once, so he probably feels like he has to get something mid. He's already committed now to the bot side of the map because he can't go top because he can't really contest his top scuttles. He's like, while I'm here, I'm actually going to look for a mid gank because theoretically, you know, Yone's overextended in the lane, things like that. But what does he realize? He doesn't realize I'm a Echo. I haven't even leveled up my W here. I'm about to get level 4, but I've taken some pretty bad trades. I haven't played the lane well at all. And what do we also know? Nidalee is, I would say, 95% of the time in this top river. Nunu can't go for this. Nunu can't go for this gank. Yone's leaning to his side. He's leaning to his jungler. This says to me that Nidalee's in the area. And what do we know? Nidalee's in the area. Pretty self-explanatory. So, Nidalee ends up dying, getting the kill onto Nunu. I waste my flash. I don't even think I needed to flash. And now Nidalee, having killed the Nunu, is going to potentially go for a double scuttle. So Nunu in this situation is like, oh shit, okay, Nidalee's on top side, getting that scuttle. I'm probably just going to go straight for my my level 1 Krugs at this point in time because they're still level 1. Fast forward in a little bit right now, what do we know? Nidalee's finishing up that scuttle. Nidalee cross maps. We see Nidalee cross map. Okay? Now, Nunu is probably thinking, okay, I can't contest that scuttle. I'm just going to give the double scuttle to that Nidalee. So, what do we know about Nidalee's path? We actually don't really know what Nidalee's going to do at this point in time. Nidalee has a lot of differing options. We know that she's done a bot to top clear. We know that she's actually got this top scuttle, and we know 100% she's going for this bot scuttle right now. Nunu can't contest this bot scuttle because I don't have priority. Yone's moving into the river, and also bot lane is actually reset, so we don't have the ability to contest that scuttle. There's a few options here. I would say there's 3 main options of what Nidalee can do. Nidalee can, number 1, get the scuttle, instantly reset, then do another like bot to top clear. She could even do the same thing and do another top to bot clear. Actually, that wouldn't even really make sense because these camps wouldn't be spawned yet. Or actually, they might be. But the other thing, she might even stay on the map and actually do another full clear top side. And then from that, go instantly straight back bot into a bot gank. There's so many potential options of what Nidalee could do right now because she's relatively healthy. She's in the area. She started bot, so her rubber banded camps are actually going to be up right now. She can actually do another full clear back up to top side. The point being is that we really don't know what Nidalee's doing right now. So, this is where the Raptors ward really comes into play. If I were to use my priority, and I don't do it here, and this is actually something that I look in my review sometimes, if I were to go up here and actually ward these Raptors, this would give our team a lot of information, okay? Because either one or two things. If Nidalee had reset and gone straight back onto top side and done maybe a top to bot clear here, we would see Nidalee where she is on these Raptors, and we would know where she is. Conversely, if I put that ward there and Nidalee actually stayed on the map and did another bot to top clear here, we would also see where she is. We would know that Nidalee has not reset and she's going to be on the top side of the map for a while, clearing up her camps, and then she'd be in base, buying her items, then eventually go back onto the bot side. We would know where she was for a very long time. So either way, warding these Raptors is a win-win for everyone. It's the best possible ward I can do. And if you're unsure about where to ward, please ward outside the Raptors, okay? This is why warding Raptors is so OP. It gives everyone information. And instead, I do some shitty lane ward against a champion that doesn't even roam. That's just a lazy ward. I should walk up and ward those Raptors. Okay? So hopefully that makes a little bit of sense. Let's go on to our last VOD of the day here, guys. So in this VOD, I end up lane swapping with this Vayne because this Vayne did not want to verse a Lucian. So I end up matching the Lucian top lane here. So I was versing a Mundo jungle. And we know that Mundo actually started this red buff here because we see that the enemy bot lane leash and get to lane late. So Mundo is going to be doing some, again, I don't know what clear Mundo does exactly. It's going to be some form of bot to top clear, whether it's a full clear, whether it's a 3 camp. I don't really know, and I don't really care. And to be honest with you, Mundo's level 3 ganks are quite pitiful, so I highly doubt he's going to do a 3 camp into gank. So all I know is that Mundo is going to be on the top side of the map at some point in time from 2 minutes 40 onwards in the river, potentially. Now, if we fast forward a little bit here, Nunu is also doing a bot to top clear, and Vayne has a lot of priority onto this Mordekaiser for obvious reasons. I'm getting pushed in by this Lucian. So I ping where I think Lucian is likely warded in that dot bush. And what do we see in a second? Mundo's pathing top, Nunu's pathing top, and Mundo actually gets spot out, you'll see in a second, in top river here. Mundo was likely thinking, oh, my Lucian actually has a lot of priority right now. Maybe I can sneak a scuttle, or maybe I can counter gank this Nunu, maybe thinking that Nunu was going to look for a counter gank. But Mundo did not calculate that Vayne had a lot of priority mid and is now stuck in the river. So Mundo has to walk out of the river right now. So all I know, I didn't really count. He's level 4. The scuttle hasn't spawned yet. So Mundo's done a pretty decent clear. We end up getting a kill onto this Lucian. Now this is absolute worst case for Mundo. Why is this worst case for Mundo, guys? Okay, this is worst case for Mundo because Mundo should have actually realized all the way back here, as he was clearing these camps, holy shit, I actually can't contest this scuttle. I can't contest this scuttle because Vayne has a lot of priority. Yes, my Lucian has priority, but it doesn't mean anything comparatively to Nunu, Vayne, and Fizz potentially collapsing on us. We're going to lose this. This Mordekaiser is catching waves under tower. Vayne did a really good job of building maybe 3 waves into this Mordekaiser. So if Mundo were able to realize this way in advance, Mundo would have been able to leave this, not enter the river whatsoever, and just go all the way back to the bot scuttle and trade it off. This is what low elo junglers do not do. In gold and even in platinum, junglers don't do this. They will come to this top side and they will force something. There's no trading scuttle in their mind. It's like, I'm here, I gotta make something happen. So as a result of Mundo committing into the river and getting forced out, this means Nunu gets double scuttle because Mundo is too late. Mundo is showed all the way up here. Mundo's not going to have enough time to go all the way over here and get the scuttle. Nunu's going to push the scuttle up. Nunu's actually very, very good at doing scuttles because he snowballs it, breaks the shield, and just consumes it. He just one-shots it. So Nunu is now on top side here. Mordekaiser should know that Nunu's topside, pretty self-explanatory. And in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, yeah, Mundo's likely going to be going on to bot side trying to trade scuttles. Or if Mundo was really, really late, he would just reset completely and go back onto his rubber banded camps and his level 2 camps. That's ideally what he should be doing. So regardless, he's going to be on bot side of the map. He's not going to be top side here whatsoever, just like so I can easily get this wave out. Now, Nunu gets a gank off mid, which is absolutely disastrous for this Mundo. Mundo tries to compensate and ends up dying. Absolute worst case scenario for this Mundo. I feel really, really bad for him here, although he's kind of dug himself his own grave. This actually means that Nunu is able to get double scuttle, and it's pretty GG for this Mundo. But what do we know about Mundo's path still? He still had 24 CS. He hadn't got either scuttle. He had just done a full 6 camp to topside. We know that he wants to go continue his bot to top clear and get his rubber banded camp. So we know likely he's going to be back onto this bot lane here, or this bot side of the map by around 5-ish minutes. And if we fast forward a bit here, what do we see? Oh, Mundo ganking bot at around 5 minutes. Who would have thought? Who would have thought, guys? Okay, so hopefully I've made this quite clear. Hopefully at least you're gonna have a rough understanding of jungle tracking here. And one thing, guys, I will highlight as the last little point here before we go into the rest of the video. If we fast forward here and Mundo goes back into his jungle, because we have no vision here or here, we actually have no vision. We don't know what Mundo's going to do. We don't know if Mundo's going to like do Raptors, Wolves, Gromp, then come back to that red. Or we don't know if Mundo is going to go do this and then actually reset, then go back to the red. We have no idea. That's where Raptors wards or deep wards over here will give the team a lot of information. If I'm a top laner and I actually see the jungler here start resetting, we know that jungler has to reset, buy items, regenerate HP, walk all the way back onto this red for that 6 minutes 50 spawn. And that's going to take, 20-ish, around 20 seconds, 25 seconds, in which my jungler and our team has a lot of information where he can be. I know if I'm a top laner, he's not going to be top for a long time. I know he's not going to be top for a very, very long time. So that's why these deep wards outside the blue, outside the Raptors, can give your team a lot of information about where they're going to be for an extended period of time. It's not just about you, it's about everyone else on the map. And the last other little point here I will highlight is if you are, say my jungler is playing a jungler that can actually solo dragon. if my jungler's on the bot side here, and then they see that this Mundo is like doing a full clear back up to top side, doing the second full clear rubber band of camps, and then they see them reset, a lot of the time that can actually give your jungle a window or an opportunity to get a free dragon. Or conversely, on the other side of the map, as you get later onto the game, if you see the jungle on the opposite side of the map on these Krugs, that can allow your jungler to sneak a Rift Herald. Vision, so spotting the enemy jungle, it's not what it denies them doing, it's what it allows your jungler to do. It's the options or the situations that actually arise as a result of having that information. Okay, we'll talk about this later on, but hopefully now with these examples, you have a little bit more of an understanding of basic jungle tracking. If you have any questions at all about this sort of thing, just hit me up in the comment section below. So one of the questions I had within the Discord community was asking Curtis, how do you know the likelihood of getting ganked or camped in a given solo queue game? And what I've realized is that there's 6 overarching factors that influence the likelihood of getting ganked. And the first one is the win condition of the enemy based off of draft. As we all know, there is pick 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 in the draft phase in solo queue. If you are pick 1 and 2, the chances that you're getting counter-picked is very high. You have to blind pick something. Whether you blind pick your Orianna, your Fizz, your Echo, whatever it is, you can't ban all of the counter picks. You're inevitably going to get counter picks. So you're going to be in a rough matchup. And the enemy jungler understands this. They know, oh, holy shit, okay, they blind picked Orianna. What is my champion going to pick? Oh, they picked Echo. Echo's pretty good into Orianna. I can actually complement that matchup and make Orianna's life like a living hell. That's actually a lane I can play around. But conversely, if you're pick 5 and you get counter pick, maybe the enemy, you know, they blind pick an Orianna or they blind pick a Camille top. So we're talking about top lane now, and you counter pick with a Jax. The jungler's probably actively thinking, okay, that's my win condition there. They got a favorable matchup, because most junglers don't want to spend their time and energy helping their losing lane and covering their losing lane. They want to spend their time and energy helping the win condition, helping someone get ahead. They don't want to spend their time preventing someone from getting behind, because that's just like a losing mindset. And this all ties into one of the reasons why League of Legends is so brutal. Like, if you get counter-picked, the chances you're going to get camped is just much higher. So it's a bit of a kick in the nuts. Like, you're already in a hard matchup and you're going to get camped. That's just the way League is. And we're going to talk about this later, but you need to understand, whether consciously or subconsciously, if you're getting camped, someone else on the enemy team is getting ganked or getting camped. So then it comes down to who can actually play or lose gracefully better. And losing gracefully is one of my favorite topics in the entire game. We'll talk about this later on, but that is something that we need to consider. The second one is where the jungler is ending up after they're clear. Like I said, if they are starting bot side, they're going to end up on the top side, especially in the lower elo brackets. They are likely going to be doing something on the top side of the map, whether top or mid. Okay? And if they're starting top side, they're likely going to do something mid or bot. That's just the way it is. In low elo, there's no creative pathing. That's just the way it is. So you should be thinking from level 1, okay, where's the jungler going to start? If they're ending up on top side, likely that's where something's going to happen. And this more influences the top lane and bot lane. It's not really mid laners, because you can kind of, well, depending on where you lean, that's where action's going to happen. But that is also something that influences who's going to get camped and who's going to get ganked. The next one is how heavy trading the matchup is. If you're playing a melee matchup, a melee versus melee matchup, if you're playing Yone versus Yasuo, or you're playing Fizz, I can't even write here, Fizz versus Yasuo. These are very aggressive, heavy trading matchups, but just because of the way they trade, right? So most junglers will understand this. Like, all right, this is a very aggressive, heavy trading matchup. Akali versus Fizz, Yasuo versus Fizz, Zed versus Fizz, whatever it is, these are very heavy trading matchups. And because they're trading a lot of their HP, they're getting very low, there's a lot of kill threat. What I always say to people, especially my coaching clients, is if you're heavy trading, you're ringing alarm bells. You're saying, hey everyone, I'm really low, everyone come here. Supports are going to be coming, tops are going to be coming, junglers are going to be coming. The heavier you trade, or the heavier trading your matchup is just by concept, the more attention you're going to attract. That's just the way it is. So you need to be considering this also. So if you're playing Aurelia, again, any of these very heavy trading melee matchups, you need to be prepared mentally. Okay, the jungler is likely going to come here. I got to be very prepared for this through jungle tracking and warding. Next one, how snowball-oriented the matchup is. Again, a lot of these matchups in the game, as we know, whether it's a Katarina involved or a Fizz or an Echo, again, a lot of these assassins, they are very snowball-oriented matchups, and it's a no-brainer. If you're a jungler, you want to get one of these matchups ahead. Same for top lane of Fiora and Tryndamere. There's a lot of these champions in the game that get one kill and they can completely run over with it. Again, that is also something you need to consider. How snowball oriented is the matchup? Next one is wave position. If the wave position is, you're very far up in the enemy lane, you're very close to the tower, again, that's going to increase the likelihood of getting ganked. That's pretty self-explanatory. And is there a duo? If you are able to spot a duo on the enemy team, whether it's a top jungle, mid jungle, whatever it is, generally the way duos play, even though I believe this is suboptimal, like usually the way I believe duos should actually play is they should play completely independent, and they just play whoever takes the better trades or what the actual win condition of the comp is given the champions in the game, not if you're duo or not. But the way most duos play is, okay, we're duo, I have to camp you, I have to gank you, I have to get you ahead. So if there is a duo, you can use that as an indicator of how likely you're going to get ganked in a given match. So now for a few tips so that you guys can make your own jungler's life much easier. The first one, please don't call for help when you are behind. Understand your role in the composition. This is one of my biggest pet peeves in League of Legends history. This is it. This is at the top of the pyramid. This pisses me off to the extreme. If you are a mid laner, a top laner, a bot laner, and you fuck up, you get behind, whether you die to a gank, you get solo killed, you mess up a tower dive, whatever it is, you get behind, you are not the win con anymore. Accept reality. You're not the carry anymore. Your jungler has limited options in the game. They have limited resources. They have limited time. They need to direct their time and energy to a place that is going to increase the likelihood or maximize the chances of winning that game. If you get behind and give first blood or give a kill to the enemy laner, the chances are, even if the jungler's going to come and give you a kill, it's not going to change the matchup. You're still not going to be the win condition. Maybe if you're slightly behind, you're now going to be even. That's not a win condition. You got to accept reality, suffer the consequences of your actions. Take a step back. And this ties into my second point here. Tell the jungler that you don't want help. If I'm behind, and if I'm really serious about climbing, and if I get behind and I know I'm not the win condition, say I'm playing Orianna, I messed up, I got solo killed by the enemy Echo. Okay, cop it, Curtis. You're not the win condition anymore. Let your jungler put resources somewhere that they can actually win their lane. Because even if I get a kill into the Echo, it's not going to change the matchup. I would say, yes, there are rare exceptions to this. Like, I would say 5% of the time, if the jungler does come back and get you a kill, it can turn the matchup and you can be a genuine win con. Or maybe you're the only win con in the team for some weird reason. But that's like such a small percentage of games. Most of the time when you die, your job is to lose gracefully. Losing gracefully, what that means, and I have a whole nother video on it, is essentially, you want to stay as healthy as possible, get the most CS as possible without giving the enemy as many options. You want to make sure you can't get dove, you want to thin waves, you want to stay healthy, you want to get as much CS. You want to just basically nullify any option that the enemy can do. You want to lose gracefully. Yes, you're not going to be able to get perfect CS. Yes, you might even get denied some CS. You might even have to go down a complete level just so you don't die. But your job is to lose gracefully. You want to soak up as much pressure so your jungler can get more on the opposite side of the map or elsewhere on the map. You need to lose gracefully. So this also ties, guys, into win conditions. You're just not the win condition anymore. You have to accept reality. So please, 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 if you get behind, accept reality. You're not the win condition. Do not call for help. Next one. Don't make it obvious that the enemy jungle is in the area. Waste time. This is what Faker was an absolute master of. Alright, guys? So back in season 3, 4, 5, when people used to say, Faker was definitively like the best mid laner of all time, things like that. Yes, he's still amazing, but when he really came to the forefront and people started recognizing him, what he was known to be great at was bringing pressure, soaking up pressure, dragging the enemy jungle mid, wasting their time so that their jungle or their team can do other things. And I spoke about this within the examples. Let's just draw a little example here. Say this is the mid lane, and we got Faker over here, and we have the enemy mid laner. If Faker's taking really good trades, maybe he's playing Fizz and he's taking really good trades, and this guy's sitting on like 25% HP. The enemy jungler is going to be like, holy shit, I need to come mid and help because Faker's going to solo kill my laner. But Faker knows this. Faker knows that the enemy jungler is going to come and maybe he spots him on a ward through good warding. Now Faker, instead of trying to go for the 2v1 outplay or instead of like playing like a bitch and telling the jungler, basically sending a message to the jungler saying, I know you're there. No, he will walk that fine line. Whoops. He'll walk that fine line here where he'll exert the perfect amount of pressure, keep the enemy jungler interested, waste their time, so then his bot laner, his jungler, his top laner can do whatever the hell they want, get more resources, get more things done, and he just soaks up all this pressure. You want to waste as much time as possible, Don't make it obvious that you know the jungler is there. Try and confuse them. Make the jungler sit around for an extended period of time. Because as we know, guys, and I said this within the examples, the longer the jungler stays there, the more your jungler is getting a tempo advantage over the enemy, and they're getting very far ahead in camps. They're probably ganking other laners, or they're not showing on the map, which is increasing the amount of perceived threat. Remember in the examples I said, if the jungler, say this is top lane, and the jungler shows top and actually fails a gank, that says to everyone else on the map, hey everyone, the enemy jungler's on top lane, they just failed a gank, I know where they are now, I know how much resources they have, I know their items, and I know where they cannot be, at least for the next minute or 2 minutes potentially. Now, if your jungler hasn't showed on the map, everyone has to be scared. Everyone's trying to use their wards. Everyone's trying to find them. No one knows where they are. So there's a lot of perceived threat. That's actually why Evelynn as a champion is so effective, because Evelynn doesn't get spotted on normal wards, everyone has to pretend that, or has to play as if she's there. That's what makes Evelynn so strong in solo queue. So guys, this is very important. And actually this ties into probably one of the most important parts of this entire video. Actually, I forgot to say this. If you're a mid laner and you complain about getting ganked, you're an absolute idiot. If anything, the best mid laners want to get ganked because they know they can avoid the gank through great warding, get great jungle tracking, and because they're taking such good trades, they're wasting the enemy jungler's time. One of the other biggest pet peeves I have in solo queue is when a laner says, oh my god, jungle diff, I'm getting camped, I'm getting ganked, look at my jungle, what are you doing? They immediately ping their jungler and be like, what are you doing, man? But your jungler's just clearing, getting ahead of the enemy jungler, clearing or resetting, getting their second rubber band camps, and getting very far ahead of the enemy jungler. That's not gonna, what's gonna happen if you get ganked topside, say there's top lane, and you get ganked by the enemy jungler, and your jungler is just clearing camps, and if you ping your jungler and say, what are you doing? You don't understand how jungle works. Jungle's not an instant punish thing. This mistake from the enemy jungler, if you survive this gank, your jungler is going to get something in a minute from now, or a minute 30 from now, because it's incremental advantages lead to a big win. Your jungler now, in about a minute's time, is probably going to be a level behind, potentially, if you survive that gank. So as a mid laner, I'm always thinking to myself, okay, if I can drag attention mid and actually survive, and I don't lose many resources and I waste the enemy jungler's time, I'm getting leads for everywhere around the map. This guy's showing on the map. Now my top lane knows they're in an isolated 1v1. My bot lane knows they're in an isolated 2v2. My jungler now knows where they are, what CS they have, what items they have, their resources. They can either sneak an objective, gank a side lane, invade their jungle, set up a counter gank. They can do anything they want. Okay, so it's a misconception that if you're complaining about getting ganked, you need to really reconsider your level of jungle tracking and warding, because that's all on you. You obviously don't understand the game. Now the next one is avoid heavy trading when your jungler isn't there. I spoke about this a lot in my videos, but if your jungler is resetting, coming out of base and doing something, if you're heavy trading mid, you're just creating opportunities for the enemy jungler. You know your jungler can't be there to help you. You need to be conscious about where your jungler is, because if you're heavy trading, you're ringing alarm bells, and if you don't know where the enemy jungler is, you're just putting yourself in a very sticky situation, and you know your jungler can't be there. It's really not good for your jungler. And the last one here is, remember, your job is to make your jungler's life as easy as possible, and simultaneously make the enemy jungler's life as hard as possible. Most people, they don't think about either of these. They don't even think about junglers. They just think about the jungle as like this like weird concept that like I just happen to get ganked randomly, or I just happen to die to ganks and it's completely out of my control. Like, no, there are things you can do to influence what happens in the future just by the way you trade, the way you jungle track, the way you ward, the way you lean in lane. If you're wasting the enemy jungler's time, are you using the information on them showing on the map to know where they will be in the next minute? I don't know. Okay, so it's a very healthy way of viewing the game, guys. So hopefully this gives you a little bit more context. Again, if you have any questions, just feel free to let me know in the comment section below. So to round out this video, guys, I want to share a quick few points on some of the most annoying solo queue junglers. Hecarim, Eve, and Nunu. And the first one is Hecarim here. So for strengths, Hecarim has a fast clear, reliable ganks post 6, solid skirmishing, and can bounce back in a game. If Hecarim gets behind in a game, because he has such solid ganking and such solid clearing, he can always find a way to get things done. This is actually one of the main reasons why Hecarim is such a forgiving champion to play. Now, in terms of Hecarim Pathing, I would say there's two main options. The first one is the classic full clear. Hecarim really does like to do a full clear because he can actually do a full clear without a leash by 3:15. It is absolutely insane. Like, he's literally heading into river, getting into river at 3:15 without a leash. This is one of the main reasons why Hecarim is such an incredibly strong champion. So he usually does something like red, Krugs, Raptors, Wolves, Blue, Gromp, but because Hecarim takes Ghost, and his E is quite an effective early game ability, he can also do 3 camp ganks. So if you're playing overly aggressive early game, be very careful for these red Krugs Raptor ganks where he can do 3 camp into a gank, then cross map onto the other side. You need to keep that in mind. Just because he likes to do a full clear, Hecarim can do other gank paths. But he won't do a level 2 gank, only the level 3 or the full clear. Now, the weakness of Hecarim is that he's very committal. Like, he goes in, he can't really get out. Yes, if you take Phase Rush, you can kind of get out, but most Hecarims or good Hecarims will go Conqueror anyway. So he is quite committal. If he goes in and he doesn't get the kill, or it's a bad fight, there's no way of getting out. His E has a very long cooldown. Not many people know this, but his E has a very long cooldown. It's actually 20 seconds at level 1. And this is something you need to be conscious about. So if you see Hecarim use E on a Scuttle, you know that he doesn't have access to that E for a very long time. Again, very crucial. And Hecarim, believe it or not, or the way I like to view it, is that Hecarim is actually like Nocturne. Hecarim is very R-centric, especially post the first clear. Very R-centric. Again, I would say pre-6, obviously Hecarim can get things done with Ghost, a lot of kill threat with Ghost, but post 6, as you get more into like early to mid game, into the mid game, he is very R-centric. So if you see Hecarim use R elsewhere, the chances that Hecarim's going to be able to do an effective gank on you is very slim, because the way Hecarim likes to gank is R, then use the E to push you back into the lane, that sort of thing. So for extra notes here, guys, like I said before, you should look to punish Hecarim when his R is on cooldown. In the early game, you do have to be quite careful for that Ghost, because it does, in combination with that E, it's a lot of damage, and it's a pretty significant gap closer. One thing that not many people know about Hecarim is that Hecarim is very vulnerable to early invades, especially pre-second buff spawn. Because Hecarim actually builds quite squishy in the early game, before you get the Sundra or the Triforce or whatever you buy, you are very squishy. So if you're playing something like a Fizz or a Zed or any burst-oriented assassin, if you try and go to their buff that they spawn, like I said before in the jungle tracking video, at around 645 or 650, you can actually catch the Hecarim on the buff and kill them relatively easy. And champions like Fizz, Zed, Vlad, and LB are actually all pretty good into Hecarim, because you can actually avoid that initial engage. So that is something that not many mid laners actually know, and for the Hecarim people, or people who play Hecarim, have probably had a few painful experiences dying to a Fizz or a Zed around level 5 just before you ding level 6 off that second buff. So that is something to consider if you want to look for a proactive play. Now the next one is Nunu. Nunu has some of the best ganks in the entire game. He has very creative paths, he scales well, and he's the ultimate Scuttle killer. He just one-shots the Scuttle. And in my opinion, Nunu right now is, I would say, genuinely broken. I don't like using this term quite often, but I think Nunu is very, very strong. With Nunu pathing, there are a lot of options. He will never want to do a full clear. Nunu is not a full clear jungler. He either wants to do 3 camp gank, 1 camp gank, or 2 camp gank. He can go straight from like blue to mid and then cross map, or red to mid and cross map. He can do 2 camp, like red Raptors mid gank. He can do 3 camp gank. Generally, he's going to be doing a gank at level 3 no matter what. He does not want to do a full clear. So Nunu is going to be active in the early game, basically guaranteed. The weaknesses of Nunu is that he has a slow clear. Nunu's actually not good at clearing the jungle. He cannot bounce back in the game as a result of that. If Nunu gets behind in a game, fails those early ganks, gets counter ganked, messes them up, fails a dive, whatever it is, it's very difficult for Nunu to get back into the game, because his clearing is actually relatively slow, and he relies on getting ganks to get ahead. And he does have a pretty one-dimensional identity, which some may say it's a weakness, others may not. Now, for extra notes with Nunu, late invading red against a Nunu is very valuable, because obviously he can't really catch up, because his level 1 is absolutely pitiful, and he actually really needs a leash. And the other great thing about actually late invading versus Nunu, and especially if you do the split map scenario, you know where he's going to be. You know his gank paths. And if Nunu can't get off those early ganks, the effectiveness of Nunu is significantly diminished. That's a very important strategy. If you can coordinate this sort of thing, is very nice. Warding Raptors versus Nunu is very high value, again, because you know what side of the map he's going to be on, so you know that those people on that side of the map need to be very careful and he can't get those ganks off. He's also very weak to mobility, very similar to Hecarim, champions like LeBlanc, Fizz, things like that. And the last little point here, guys, ban Nunu or hold on tight. It's a very difficult champion to deal with. I was trying to figure out ways and talking to Nathan about dealing with Nunu. To be honest with you, this champion is very busted. And to be honest, I think it's actually going to get nerfed at some point or reworked because it's very unfair. And I don't like it at all. I don't like it one bit. So hold on tight. You're gonna get ganked. You just got to avoid them as much as you can and utilize your jungle tracking, man. And utilize solid warding. Now for Eve. Eve's strength, she has very reliable ganks post 6. She has perceived threat everywhere on the map due to her invisibility, like I mentioned before, and she actually scales relatively well, especially if she has a good, she actually farms relatively well and has a decent early game. Now, her path, she generally wants to farm till 6. Usually she does full clears, things like blue, Gromp, wolves, raptors, red, krugs. She can actually do a full clear by 3 minutes 10 relatively fast, very fast, if you know how to kite the camps properly. And it is quite common for Eve to get double scuttled. Even if she does get double scuttled, because she can clear so fast and do this 3 minute 10 bullshit clear and come back on and do a rubber band of camps, it's not going to set her too far behind. But, which leads me to her weaknesses, she does get very low after 3 camps in the jungle. So she is very vulnerable to getting ganked and killed on the first clear. If Eve does this path on, say Eve's on red side and she does blue Gromp wolves, if you walk up onto those raptors as she's like walking back onto top side, or if you're playing a jungler or any champion that gets priority early, she's going to be around, I would say, 30 to 40% HP as she's heading onto those raptors. If you can push her off those raptors, or even like kill her on those raptors, or burn her flash, it's going to set her significantly far behind. Okay? That's very important to understand. There's a lot of invade potential, especially in those split map scenarios. And she's very difficult to navigate versus group teams. If you're playing Eve and the team's always grouping, Eve can't really do much. Eve wants people to be in the side lane. She wants to pick isolated targets. So if you're versing Eve, try to tell your team to group as much as possible, especially in the mid to late game. Now, for extra notes here, guys, Eve is very easy to punish on the second buff spawn. Like I said, similar to Hecarim, she's very squishy before she dings 6. So if you're able to invade around 6 minutes 50 on the buff that she started, it can sometimes be an absolutely free kill. Now, once she's got that second buff, right, the buff that actually gets her 6, she will likely look for a gank on the closest 2 lanes to that buff spawn. So she started blue and did a bot to top clear, and she's come back onto that blue around 6 minutes 50. She will likely look for a gank in around mid or bot, because as soon as she hits 6, she goes from being one of the worst champs in the game to one of the strongest champs in the game, and she wants to utilize that. She wants to use her ult off cooldown. If you're playing Evelyn, you want to use your ult off cooldown, and because, again, she's so strong, she's power spiked, she will likely look for a gank on those 2 lanes. Now, if you're playing versus even competitive or clash or scrims or whatever, what you can actually do versus Eve is you can actually control ward one side of the map. You don't need to have control walls on both sides of the map. Just light up one side completely. Then you know 100% she can't be on that side and she has to be on the other side of the map. This is a very effective strategy in Clash and things like that. And the last point here is late invading Eve level 1 is very good, especially if you take red and raptors. If you don't take raptors, it's actually not that good, because what can actually happen if you say you late invade the red and you do this weird late invade, you take the red and you don't take the raptors. What Eve can do is she can just do blue Gromp wolves and just sneak the raptors, skip the red and accept that she's not going to get a red, and then do Krugs and just reset and do the exact same path again. And she's actually not that far behind. She actually really needs the raptors. So if you're able to split the map and take the raptors and the red, then cross back to your side and get your raptors in red, she's actually completely screwed. It actually really ruins her entire early game, and it's going to be very hard for her to find a way back into the game. So if possible, similar to Nunu, it's a very effective strategy. So hopefully this really gives you a bit of information about jungling, jungle theory, jungle tracking, that sort of thing. If you have any questions whatsoever, hit me up, let me know, and I'll do my best. Hopefully this helps you guys out heading into Season 11, and thanks for watching guys. Cheers.